Okay, what I want to give you today is a little bit of information on how the human body functions. The average person may or may not realize how our cell structure works, but I want to give you some insight that I've come up with from talking to and reading several scientists. The human body does not age and it does not get sick. Your cell structure ages and gets sick. I'm going to give you a little insight as to why we have become sick in America with the Western diet. I'm going to give you some insight into how the cell works. This is a very simplistic idea of how the cell works, but I'm going to give this to you. Every cell in the human body has got a lipid lining around it. Okay, lipid is a scientific name for oil. Okay, around every cell in your body, you've got this lipid lining. And it's an oil lining. What it does is it protects the cell. Well, inside this cell is about 250 proteins, and each one of these proteins has a specific job. And also inside this cell is about a gigabyte of information telling all these proteins what they're supposed to be doing. Well, I'm going to give you a little insight on how this works. These are proteins sticking out of the cell, and you got proteins inside the cell. Each one of these proteins has got a different job. One of these proteins' job might be to collect, say, oxygen molecules that happen to be coming by, and these oxygen molecules are in the blood, and this cell collects them. This protein will collect these oxygen molecules. Well, once it gets full of oxygen molecules, it jerks back inside and puts these oxygen molecules inside the cell. Okay? This other protein's job might be to collect glucose that's flowing by in the blood. So it's collecting these glucose molecules, and then when it gets loaded down, it sucks those back inside in here. This is glucose, and this is oxygen, O2. Okay? This is a very simplistic deal. These other proteins all have very specific functions of collecting and doing different things with different things floating by in the blood. But these two things, the oxygen and the glucose, is a very, very important part of how we work. Well, when this oxygen and glucose gets together inside here, it actually forms a chemical reaction, and what they call burns these products, and it creates energy. Also, it creates byproducts called waste. Okay, you got proteins inside here that collect the waste products that from this reaction, and then they go back out and shove it outside for the blood to pick it up and carry it back off into the urine. Okay, here's what the sweat is this cell lining around here is made out of oil or lipid. It's made out of a very specific oil. When our Creator made us, this lining is actually made out of omega-3s. Okay, well, what's happened to the Western diet? Okay, this lining is supposed to be omega-3. Well, what's happened to the Western diet is that because we don't eat much fish over here, we're eating mostly stuff like soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, that's in everything we eat. And so we're not eating fish, our body's continually rebuilding ourselves. So what's happening is this lining right here becomes omega-6. Which is soybean oil, corn oil, a bunch of the other omega-6s, there's several of them. And so when this lining changes from omega-3 to omega-6, here's where the problem comes. Omega-3 is a very lightweight oil that allows these reactions, allows these proteins to go back and forth, allows us this trade-off between oxygen and nutrient stuff going in and out of the cell to function very easily. When this lining becomes omega-6, omega-6 is a thick, sticky oil that inhibits this process from happening. And it slows it down. You get less oxygen and less nutrients in the cell. You get less waste products being taken out of the cell. And so that causes the cell to be sick. Okay? So, the thing you got to remember is that blood cells are just like every other cell in your body, muscle cells and everything else. And your blood cells, what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to flow through your body loose like this. Okay, when they get the omega-6 lining on instead of the omega-3, they wind up flowing through your body like this in clumps. And that's the reason everybody's on blood thinners. Okay? Once you get on this omega-3 fish oil, this combination alkoxylglycerol omega-3, it switches the blood cells back from this to this. You get tremendous blood circulation. It switches this lining back to the omega-3s, and all of these reactions happen about 100 times easier. And so when that happens, you wind up becoming in a state of health. What we've come up with is a product that you take that will replace this lining on your cells back to the omega-3s, and when that happens, your body starts going back into a state of health, and when that happens, your body starts fixing the disease that it's got. That's basically how simple it works.